This is Enki's build guide. We've got 2,000 pages of people saying, "God damn, what a good build guide." There's always someone that pops up and says, "I like this build, but I want to push it further." And I want to see what these people, or at least maybe with this one build guide in particular, is trying to achieve. When I saw Enki update his build guide for in the beginning of this league for Ritual, I thought he did an exceptionally good job. And I almost league started it because I was like, damn, he did a really good job of updating not only the build guide, but the build itself. One of the things that I don't like is Ledge of Hands, except for Ice Nova Frostbolt characters, because you don't get locked in place because you get to skip that part of the build. Unless you have extraordinarily high cast speed, so you don't get locked in place. I think especially now that Harvest is in the game, using a unique staff, the enormous opportunity cost to it. Before we look at an example of what someone's done to quote-unquote update Enki's character, we're going to start back here and look at Enki's character. Alright, path to building. I uploaded this already. I'm going to look at the POB. And this is the same kind of thing that I do when I'm looking at somebody's build. This is Tempered Mind for mana recovery. I like this a lot. We're connecting here, so we might be using a pure talent. Turns out we are. Talent gives 0.5% maximum mana regen per second from the Witch, and 25 all attributes from the Scion. We're going to have a Mind Over Matter chess piece at some point. We're going to toggle, because we're going to be comparing this to like the end game Bosskiller 50 billion DPS. We're going to put on the good gear, you know what I mean? Basic 2, let's see. Oh, we get a Watcher's Eye as well. Let's see. 2 Affix Watcher's Eye. Clarity Wrath. Oh, that's a nice Watcher's Eye. So the tree is excellent. I like all the 1-pointers that we have. I like that we have both sides of this. I like that we have the 1-pointer up here. 8% mana, 10% mana, or 10% mana regeneration. I like the pathing. It's like, feels pretty stock standard, you know what I mean? Level 90 endgame gear tree. You know what? We can do this. We can do a comparison. Let's do a level 90 comparison with level 90 endgame gear. So this is something that got added to POB recently. If you have multiple different skill trees that are available in your POB, you can compare one of them with another one to see what the differences are. How about Arc endgame setup? Click. Turn off this. I'm surprised that he doesn't have a higher quality chest piece in here. I think Cloak of Divines is awesome. Cloak of Divines is like extremely good chest piece. But you could also have something with some of the new elevated mods that have been added to the game in Ritual League because of Maven stuff. Like Maven elevated, Shaper, damage taken from mana before life, that kind of stuff, Explodey, mana, percent mana. You get some really high quality chest pieces, right? Looking at this build right now, I think I've got the configurations in a good spot. We have everything set to average. We have no frenzies, no power, no endurance, and I don't see a way of generating those. It's worth noting that one of these could become something like Enduring Composure on a small armor cluster jewel. So this could be like, you know, gain an endurance charge every second if you've been hit recently. You could also get that on a chest piece. You could also just use Enduring Cry. There's all sorts of ways to get endurance charges these days. But Mindful, this is good. 80% mana regeneration while stationary is cute, because while stationary just means like while you're actually casting something, so it's kind of cool. Pretty much all of this gear could be better, but it's super solid. It's good. It's good gear. This is Flasks, Convergence, Sigil of Power, Val RF. We pop those with 8 mil DPS. Without those, we have 5 mil DPS. Okay, I get it. I would be doing a disservice to Enki if I didn't come back to his guide and read through it real quick. Gearing in PoE is all about opportunity cost. It is. Ledge of Hands looks cool, but it has an enormous opportunity cost of not being something that you can harvest craft. Let's look at the defenses. Our maximum hit taken is about 30,000, which means that we can tank 3 Shaper Slams at the same time and still be left over with 100 life. Our effective hit pool against Fizz is 36,000, which is a little bit low, but that's 36,000 with 50% Mind Over Matter and tons of mana regeneration, plus Dynamo going off, plus Arcane Cloak. And in my opinion, these builds always feel a little bit tankier than the numbers show here, because you have so many good mechanics that are working together synergistically. We don't have any Fortify, we don't have any Endurance charges. Let me show you, for example, what it would look like if we did add Endurance charges in here. So let's turn on Endurance charges like this. This brings us up to from 36k to 46k. So this is how much? 10, 30? It's like 30% tankier than we used to be a second ago. Looks pretty good. If we were using scepters instead of using wands, we could still craft just about all the same modifiers here. And then you could sacrifice, like, I don't know, 3 points over here and use a Vigil. Vigil would give us, I guess you put a Vigil here, you can also put a Vigil here, can't you? And Vigil along with Vigilant Strike could give you like 37 seconds of Fortify. So if that were something that we invested our time into, we would be at 45. So if Vigil giving us Fortify is about the same as giving ourselves 3 Endurance charges. If we did both, we shoot up to 56.8 or 57. And that's like, in my opinion, for an Archmage character that's built like this, I think that this would feel very, very good. I recently played a Bladefall Blade Blast Necromancer with Archmage. I was invested into block, and I had like the Mistress of Sacrifice node to help give me even more block chance. Block is a chance at damage avoidance and taking no extra damage at all. And block makes this number go much, much higher. For reference, my character that I was playing had like, I don't know, maybe 110 or 120,000 effective HP. But I think this character, is doing a very good job of utilizing the components that it chose. I've got no complaints about this. If I were playing this, here's what I would do. I would take out the Silver Flask. I would try to get Onslaught in some other way. And I'd put in like a Basalt Flask. Take off Endurance charges, take off Fortify. And that would bring me up from 36 to 49. And like even that change by itself, I'd be pretty happy with. Granite of Iron Skin gives you a tremendous amount of armor. Something like Granite of Iron Skin is going to make it feel much better while mapping. Because remember, armor is really good against a bunch of small subsequent hits from like white or blue enemies. But armor is not good at mitigating one-shots. That's not the point of armor. It's not what it's there for. So if you're feeling squishy during maps, something like a Granite Flask of Iron Skin could really buffer that up. So the purpose of looking at Enki's build, we have a good idea of where he's coming from and like the kinds of decisions that he's making, that he's made so far. Let's jump over to this build here. Can I open up another instance of POB? I kind of want to. Let's read the build guide. We are providing a bridge from Enki's Archwitch starter build to a full-on 50 million damage Cyrus DPS boss murdering machine. We used Enki's Archwitch as a league starter, loved it, was able to easily cruise the red maps. I started having trouble in the super endgame bosses like Cortex, Maven, Ubred Siri, Feared. It may be doable, but the fairly low ceiling on damage makes it hard. This build is my attempt to see how far I could push Arc, keeping the character and as much of the gear from Enki's Archwitch. Enki's build was easily able to farm up enough currency for the transition, and this build allowed me to easily do all endgame content. Okay, so this person is specifically targeting one piece of content, right? Like they want to do these 4 bosses. They want to have tons of damage and one-shot them. More expensive. It took me about 15x to get to 25 mil DPS. The current gear is about 80 exalts, and I have 55 million Cyrus DPS. Okay. Less fluid play is one of the minuses here. Greater Spell Echo locks you in place for an instant while it casts, and it can take some getting used to. Doesn't matter if anything, it doesn't matter as long as everything dies instantly. So I really don't like Spell Echo, or rather Greater Spell Echo. So in case you don't know this, Frostbolt Ice Nova, one of the reasons that I like this so much with the Pledge of Hands is that it allows you to bypass getting locked in place. If you're playing a normal build like Self-Cast Arc, well, you get the 1 normal cast, you get the Greater Spell Echo, which echoes it 2 more times. You have three casts that you have queued up, and then you're also using Spell Echo, which adds an additional repeat. So for every 1 time that you click your Arc button, your character is going to go pew 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 all 4 times. So I hope that this person has a lot of cast speed. I hope that we have some kind of defense, to justify us standing in place for like half a second while we're doing all these casts. And we'll see how much currency they've invested in the rest of their gear. Because one of the things I'm wondering is like, well, if we're spending 80 exalts on this character here, how much damage could we get if we just kept 2 scepters instead of using a Pledge of Hands? Because Harvest is a real opportunity cost to using something like Pledge of Hands. Okay, let's see this. We have Righteous Fire turned on. Okay, it sounds like we have RF turned on all the time. What is changing? Let's see. Oh, we're going crit. Oh my god, we're going crit. One of the reasons that you see Archmage builds go non-crit is that if you're going Archmage, you have these like you have components of your build that you need to spec into, right? So if you're Archmage, that means you need like mana, percent mana, you need mana regeneration, mana recovery rate. The reason that you don't see Archmage builds typically go crit is we already have all these other things that we're speccing into, and we can't spread ourselves too thin. Oftentimes in PoE, as is right now the case, money solves things. If we have a problem, money just kind of solves it, right? So if you want to take a build that doesn't normally go crit and go crit with it, just spend more money. Harvest is in the game. You can probably get away with it, right? Making use for Arcane Surge. I do think Arcane Surge is really good. Having Archmage as one of your main DPS support gems in your 6th link, having Arcane Surge in there as well, I like that. I support that. Turning RF on does mean we lose a bit of regen, so I wonder whether this person has any plus maximum resistances, or whether maybe they have a elemental damage taken as chaos damage from Zibakwa, from Divine Flesh. Because remember, Divine Flesh does work with RF. You can mitigate RF damage over time by increasing your maximum chaos res and taking fire damage as chaos damage. So I'm curious to see whether he's including that here. It could be cute. Maybe he does. Bastion of Elements. Yo, Bastion of Elements. Bastion of Elements. You're changing the Ascendancy. I wonder what he drops in order to get this. I really hope he doesn't drop Ailment Immunity. Enki had been anointing Crusader. And Crusader's Transfiguration of Mind. You can get Transfiguration of Mind on a helmet now, which I assume is what this person's doing here. Okay, so we still have Crown of the Inward Eye. It's curious that this person has spent 80 exalts. We're going to take a look at his POB in a moment. 3 unique flasks and a diamond flask. I wonder what his defenses look like. I took out Clarity. The thing that says take 10% of damage from mana before life while affected by Clarity. He took it out. That is a considerable source of defense that he seems to be trimming here. We'll see. The main con is Greater Spell Echo basically stunning you. We have damage to spare, so consider a weapon swap, and then using Pledge of Hands only for bosses. That's interesting. Kind of cute. I like the fact that that recommendation is included here. So we've read through the build guide. We know where this person's coming from. Oh. We went Supreme Ego. Okay. That's a pretty big knock to our defenses, no? Like the Clarity Watch's Eye that says 10% damage taken from mana before life. That is a exceptionally strong layer of defense. I'm surprised to see that. Enki had a utility jewel right here. I'm actually going to swap over here so I can show it to you, right? So this is Enki's character. We have a Transcendent Mind, and this gives us 3% increased mana recovery rate per 10 intelligence on allocated, and then 2% reduced per 10 intelligence on unallocated. There's flat mana recovery that would come from helping Alira in Act 2, and there's also flat mana from this. Like we generate 3 mana per second. This arcane will notable on the skill tree. Those get multiplied by increased mana regeneration. And mana regeneration rate is the kind of thing that you see on like normal looking gear, right? When you start getting to influenced gear, if you have like a Shaper Belt, Shaper Belt's gonna have increased mana recovery rate. And that mana recovery rate, it's a different wording, and it's a more multiplier on every other piece of mana regeneration that you have. So mana recovery rate is sweet. It is very, very strong. This is the kind of thing that would make your mana shoot up faster when you pop your Arcane Cloak using Dynamo. It would help you survive a bunch of small hits. It would help you cast your spells with more fluidity, right? Like mana recovery rates, mana regeneration, maximum mana. Like these are all the things that when you combine together, they make these Archmage builds so good. All right, moving this aside. We don't. Instead, we have the word damage. Let's see what else. In the Ascendancy, we've dropped Heart of Destruction. So Heart of Destruction is 30% more damage for 4 seconds, right? So it's you always have 60% increased AoE, but when you hit a boss for 4 seconds, you get 30% more damage, and then you have 4 seconds without that buff. So it levels out to 15% more damage against bosses, and then 60 AoE, like while you're clearing or something. If we were playing a build that used the area of effect, like maybe we're playing RF, or maybe we're playing like Blade Vortex or something where that 60 increased AoE really juiced up our clear speed, I would say, hell no, we're not going to drop this. But as it stands, listen, if we've already got 50 million DPS, I'm okay, right? Like this is a defensible decision. I'm kind of into it. Let's see the rest of the skill tree. We've dropped Heart of Thunder. I like that. So Heart of Thunder, this is like, these are the easiest kinds of things to get on your gear, right? Like 15% increased damage, 15% increased damage, right? 25% increased damage. The increased damage that you get from Heart of Thunder is the same increased damage that you get on gear or jewels or gloves or anything that says the word increased. All of those increases are the same. So like, yeah, while you're leveling, amazing nodes. These are exceptionally strong nodes. Early end game, exceptionally strong nodes. When you're min-maxing your character, these are the kind of nodes that I would look at and be like, you know what, maybe we don't need these. And it turns out these nodes are only about they're just about 2.0% DPS per point. Yeah, they're nothing special. So I like it. I like skipping those. What do we have up here? Let's see, cast speed, elemental damage, sure. Scintillating Idea, excellent. I love Scintillating Idea. And then we have Eye of the Storms. Effect of non-damaging ailments. Not great. Let's see. Enemy shocked. This is not a great notable right here. It's 40 crit chance, which brings us from 77 crit up to 80 crit, and then 94 to 96 effective crit with a Diamond Flask Up. This is not great. What's this other one over here? This is Pressure Points. Pressure Points is a 5.0 node, and again, this is the kind of stuff that I'm not really into personally. It brings us from 77 up to 80. 74, 77, 74, 77, 74, 77, 80 effective, or 80 crit chance to 96 effective crit. But like, you could have utility, you could have life, you could have a megalomaniac here, you could have so many things that aren't just crit. It's like, yeah, I suppose so. Do we have power charges in this build? What if we turn on power charges and turn off this? Ain't that the truth? We could sacrifice this cluster jewel. We could sacrifice all of this and turn on power charges instead. And it's almost as good. So what if we just worked power charges into our build, right? Yeah. These just a little bit of crit chance here, a little bit of crit chance there. I'm not in love with it. But let's move on. We have Clear Mind. Clear Mind is fine. It gives us some mana regeneration. It gives us 50% increased spell damage. It's okay. I'm surprised that this person wants to use Clear Mind instead of using something like a triple crit multi-jewel. So we've 67.9 right now. Let's put on one of his normal jewels here. 67.9. Yeah, so like it's kind of a question of like how much do you value that mana regeneration? If you can get mana regeneration on a piece of gear, we would rather do that. So it's kind of like a question of opportunity cost. One of the reasons that you see people prioritizing things like crit multi on a cobalt jewel is that the crit multi rolls go up to like, you know, 15, 16, up to 18 for a specific crit multi. And getting crit multi on a Cobalt Jewel is one of the best single sources of crit multi in the game, because the opportunity cost is so low and the relative value of that, like it goes up to 18, it's high. Compare that to critical strike chance. You can get like 10, 15 crit, maybe 14 critical strike chance for cold skills is written on the top of this jewel here. 14% crit chance for cold skills. Well, this thing right here gives 20 increased critical strike chance for cold skill, or for any skill, right? So like, generally speaking, the values that are written on a Cobalt Jewel, critical strike chance, they're just not high enough. If they were 50, yeah, 50 sounds great. That's really good. But like 10, listen, you don't see anybody doing this. They just kind of stop here, or they go all the way here. Ain't nobody going like that. They're like, oh, I'm so excited to get 20 critical strike chance. Oh boy. Yeah, so crit multi on these kind of jewels, exceptional. High priority, right? Critical strike chance, low priority. So I have no issue with this jewel that we see here, but I wanted to call that out for the people in chat, in case that's not already something on your radar. Wave Conviction. Awaken Hex Touch, level 5, gives you +1 curse. So we have connectivity, power charge on crit. Ooh, so he does have power charges. They just weren't checked. Gotcha. Wave of Conviction. What do you think about this? Wave of Conviction, power charge on crit. What does power charge on crit mean? 54% chance to gain a power charge on critical strike. So you walk up to a boss and you use your Wave of Conviction, and it's a coin flip for whether you get a power charge. So you Wave of Conviction again, and then you got your first power charge. Nice. And then you Wave of Conviction again, and then you Wave of Conviction again, and then you Wave of Conviction again, and then let's keep going. Sigil, Val RF, and we have RF turned on all the time. Let's see, what's our regen looking like? We have no Divine Flesh, and we have no plus maximum resistances. So we don't have, what's the word for it? Defenses. If you're doing the Feared, that was one of the goals of this build, right? The Feared is like, it's kind of scary. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. Nobody's calling out their attacks. And we're locking ourselves in place using Greater Spell Echo. And we've trimmed all of the defense from the build. We have exceptionally high damage. I get it, I get it. The staff nodes in the skill tree are awesome. We've sunk some extra money into the build, which means that we can take an Archmage build and try to make it crit as well. But remember what I said at the beginning, right? When you have like a duelist, right? How about this? You're gonna play like a crit Impale Cyclone, right? You're gonna play a crit Impale Cyclone. What's this guy? Champion. That means that you're probably specking into Fortify, maybe 1 Fortify cluster, maybe 2 Fortify clusters, right? Because you want like increased effective Fortify. You'll see that that in hardcore, there's a lot more people who go non-crit than crit, because there's already so many other things, including defenses and quality of life and layers of defenses, that they want to spec into, right? So like you can go crit, or you can go Impale, or on softcore, because it's not particularly dysynergistic, you could just spec in the build. But you wouldn't go like crit and Impale and bleed, because you can't scale all of those same things while also picking up life, while also picking up defenses, right? And one of the benefits of an Archmage build is that you can spec into mana. Mana gives you offense and defense and quality of life. Gives you everything that you need. That's why these Archmage builds, they all kind of look the same on the skill tree. It's interesting to see like the kinds of things that we've min-maxed, right? Like we got some good looking gloves here. I don't mind these gloves at all. Unnerve, Culling, some crafted mana. It's crafted mana, but it's still fine. But like, why does our boss and character not have Tailwind boots, right? It really just seems like we trimmed all the defense and just went crit. An example of asymmetrical investment. We're investing heavily into something. We still kind of have like level 1 gear, right? sometimes I talk about level 1, level 2, level 3 gear. And like to me, level 1 gear is like life, movement speed, crafted movement speed, life, movement speed, res, or like life, res, life, res, life, res. But if you're a new player, you need life, you need res, and that's your level 1 gear. Your level 2 gear is like life, res, and one relevant, interesting stat. Our 2-tone boots. This is level 2 gear. Couldn't these have tailwind on them, or at the very least elusive? Like, are we really casting Wave of Conviction 6 times just to get some power charges? Not sure. So one of the ways that you see people building Archmage characters, Hierophant gets 10% damage taken from mana before life, like a juiced up mind over matter. You see people use Cloak of Defiance, which again is juiced up. Another notable way of going Archmage is by taking the Scion Ascendancy. Oftentimes you'll see people go like maybe Pathfinder plus Inquisitor, or even Pathfinder plus Hierophant. And Hierophant again is 8% of damage taken from mana before life. So if you're using like Cloak of Defiance or like an elevated chess piece, I guess like elevated or like a shaper normal chess piece, we can have 30% normal from mind over matter. We can have plus 10, so 40 from a Watcher's Eye with 10% damage taken from mana before life while affected by clarity. And then you can also have one of these ascendancies, right? So you get up to like 50% damage taken from mana before life. When you have so much mana regeneration and mana recovery rate, and you have Dynamo, and you have Arcane Cloak, and you have this enormous pool of mana that gives you damage and everything, that's why these Archmage builds are so flippin' good. They're so good. You see characters with like 3k life and 8k mana, and you're like, oh my god, how are they staying alive? How can you have 3k life and 8k mana? Well, it's because they don't just have normal flippin' mind over matter. They have super juiced up mind over matter with 50% effect instead of this 30% effect from this node. When I look at this, we made crit work, right? I think the most important thing is like we made crit work. We got enough crit. In fact, we even have too much crit. When you have 94 crit chance and your Diamond Flask puts you at effective 99 crit chance, it's too high. We don't need this much crit chance. We don't need to spend a medium cluster jewel on this. This is not necessary. Without this, we're still at 8798. 8798 is extremely good critical strike chance. We're good. Don't need it. I would use a different cluster jewel instead. I don't know what, but I would. Other things that I think are notable here. I don't like, oh no. My favorite nodes on the tree, we didn't take them. Okay, well we're going to, don't worry. I don't like Supreme Ego on this. It takes away from like a level 1 clarity or level 1 precision, one of those like Watcher's Eye options. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think this is worth the point investment. So just food for thought, right? Supreme Ego like this. Supreme Ego gives us about 9% more damage to our build, right? So just this 1 point. If we already had this, boom, 9% more damage. That's insane. But if we have 9% more damage over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, this whole thing, if you look at this, unallocating this node and all nodes depending on it, average hit 8.2 over 5 points, it's about 1.6 per point. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 points right here give us more damage than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Things that this person did well in trying to like have their own personal take on the build. So this node, right? Heart of Destruction. Heart of Destruction we said is 30% more damage half the time, so it's about 15% more damage. So like we could trim this and then use something else on the skill tree instead. If we're dropping Elemental Focus and using Arcane Surge instead, first of all, I like that a lot. I like Arcane Surge along with Archmage in like the main setup of some kind of like arc, you know, in some kind of Archmage, whatever the hell you're playing. So if we're dropping LED Focus and we're shocking stuff and we're critting stuff, Shaper of Winter, I'm kind of into it. This person recommended going for Bastion of Elements for like some little extra defenses. It's 1,000 life bubble Aegis against Ellie damage. It's exceptionally strong if you do things like Fizz taking his Ellie, because then your Bastion of Elements is mitigating not only elemental damage, but also physical damage. that's absent in this build, but you could do that, chat, in your own builds. I kind of like this. I kind of like Shaper of Winter. So this would make it so that all of your damage can chill. Chill's a nice defensive layer. If we're using Arc, if we're using Ball Lightning, that means that we're chilling all the things around us. And if we're chilling something, we can also like freeze and shatter stuff. And like, I kind of like it. I think this is really cool. We saw someone earlier this league. I think it was Garatha, if I remember correctly. Garatha was playing a Stormburst Casserole Channeling Hydrosphere build, which was it was all lightning damage. The whole thing was lightning damage. But he was also using Shaper of Winter to like chill enemies and slow them down so that they would stay in the Stormburst AoE damage for a longer period of time. Because Stormburst is like a channeling thing. And he was playing hardcore SSF and he wanted some extra layer defense. And he was also freezing and shattering everything. And I was like, that looks great. Looks really good. I would not complain at all about taking like an arc build and just making it so that all of your damage can chill, all of your damage can shatter. Especially if we're still using something like Cloak of Defiance, which doesn't have exploding, right? This, I'm kind of into it. I kind of like it. So yeah, the idea of dropping LA Focus and having Arcane Surge, I like it. Actually shocking stuff, actually critting, kind of like it. The idea of not taking Heart of Destruction, but still taking Mastermind of Discord, I like it a lot. I might try this. This person tried this. I think those are like the things that I do like about the build. The flasks, I think the Replica Lavianjas is a bit too cheesy. I would like to have something defensive instead. But I guess if you're only concerned with one-shotting bosses, I guess Replica Lavianjas does help you. I will never recommend Pledge of Hands. I don't like Pledge of Hands unless you're using it for Frostbolt Ice Nova. I think it causes more problems than it realistically solves. I've had a lot of people come to the channel and say, here's my build, it's clunky, I don't like it, I die a lot, what's the problem? Pledge of Hands. Special thanks to Enki for dropping by the stream and chatting with me about these two build guides in particular. I had a lot of fun talking to him and a Twitch chat about these two guides. Let me know if you're into this content, if this is the kind of thing you would like to see. We'll see if we can find more build guides like this that we can dig into and pick apart and see if we like them, see if there's things we don't like or things that you and I might do differently. That's all for me. We'll see you next time.